There we go. Welcome everyone to the Orange Audubon's uh, monthly education webinar. And today we're going to talk about getting your students ready for the Great Backyard Bird Count. So this is brought in part through the resources of the Cornell K-12 education program, which is on their website, and I highly recommend you check it out. They have a lot of resources. And also from Orange Audubon Society. So we're glad you're joining us. So the Great Backyard Bird Count this year is February 13th through 16th. So it starts on Friday and ends on a Monday. And the Great Backyard Bird Count is global. So if your students participate, this is global. So looking back at last year, 8,078 bird species were identified in 217 countries or eBird subregions. There were over 387,000 checklists is when you send in a list of what you're reporting. Over 655,000 Merlin bird IDs. If you're not familiar with that, we'll be mentioning that tonight. Over 189,000 photos, and they're estimating 838 participants. Sometimes on a list, not everyone lists everyone who participated. Over 74% of the world's known species were reported. That is amazing, and that's over 4 days all around the world. So why should you participate? Well, you're making sure your local birds are being counted. It's a long-term record of birds. You can go back, you can go to the eBird website, you can go to the Great Backyard Bird Count website, and you could look at all the records from previous years. And obviously, researchers that research birds can't be everywhere. And it's an excellent way to involve students in authentic science because they're counting birds that count for science. And what is learned from these type of studies? Well, they're learning migration patterns. One reason they pick February is because it's actually the very beginning of spring migration. Some birds are already moving. They can look at year-to-year changes and long-term trends. And it starts midnight, February 13th to 11:59 p.m. on February 16th. And you can count birds wherever you like. So it's called the Great Backyard Bird Count, and it's kind of a misnomer. You don't have to count birds in your backyard. So of course you count at schools, city streets, park, nature centers, eBird hotspots. Anywhere you'd like, you can count the birds. And what do? You count birds anywhere for at least 15 minutes. That's the minimum you can do. You can count longer, okay? You do need to keep track of your time, and you need to give your best estimate on the number of individuals for each species observed. So if you see Carolina wrens and you see more than one, you try to get your best estimate on the total. Now, sometimes there might be a huge flock of robins, so you do your very best to just give an estimate of how many you see. And here's some things to do prior to when you decide to count the birds, probably on February 13th if you're doing it at school. So look around your campus and find places where you might see birds. So you look for areas that have food, water, and shelter. Decide on a time. Now, you might be limited. You might have a specific time, maybe recess. But if you can choose a time, morning is the best because birds are most active then. You will need to create a free account on eBird. This is a very long-running database since 2004. I've been using eBird since 2013. It's an excellent resource. Very easy to make yourself an account. It's free. And once you create an account on eBird, you have access to lots of other resources, including Bird Academy, which has some classes you pay for, but a lot that are free. the Great Backyard Bird Count, Nest Watch, Feeder Watch, and all those things. There's a lot of stuff there. And then you're going to choose a resource to help you identify the birds. So Merlin, which some of you might be familiar with, is a very free. It's free and it's very easy to use. But you can use paper field guides. It's really nice to let students look through these and kind of figure out how to identify birds. I would recommend that you pick a field guide for your area. So obviously if you're in Florida, you want either Eastern United States or North America. Don't get one with like all the birds of North America, because that'd be way too overwhelming. Or field guide of Florida is fine too. And anyone can learn to identify their local birds with some practice and using the resources. So before doing this, you should teach your students some basics, like when you're looking at a bird, think about how big it is, what shape it is, the main colors, and how they're acting. So first with size, you think about, well, is the bird like small like a little sparrow? Is it about the size of a robin? Is it in between? Is it the size of a crow or the size of a goose? And that gives you kind of relative sizes. And then these are basic shapes of common birds like woodpeckers, owls, birds of prey, ducks, songbirds. Most common birds you're going to see probably at your school ground are going to be songbirds. Geese, gulls. You have your wading birds if you have water nearby your school. And then have the students pay attention to the three main colors. And notice what the bird was doing. Now, if you have feeders, maybe it was eating a feeder. You might have a pond nearby that they're swimming, or maybe they're on the ground, or in a tree or bush. Just pay attention to what it was doing. If you use the Merlin app, it generates these questions and you answer it, and then it helps it to determine what you might be seeing. So I did this sample. I put in small brown bird in a tree, and then it generated a sample of what it could be. Now you might look at this and say, well, yeah, they're all brown except that red-winged blackbird. Well, the trick is the female red-winged blackbird is brown and white with stripes. So that wasn't too bad for that. But if you didn't know the female looked different, when you click on each bird, you can look at an expanded view and look at males and females, stuff like that. So then once you look at that list and you find the bird that matches, say, oh, it looked like this one, you can click on this is my bird, and it will give you information about it. Now, if you're working with very young children, you could, now this doesn't count towards the Great Backyard Bird Count, but it does count as doing a bird count. You can report your sighting with Merlin. You can click the Save to Merlin, and it's recorded on your device. If you want to go to eBird, it can do one bird at a time this way. So with younger children, it's okay. You could do this, but it's not as scientifically accurate because you cannot report all the birds you're seeing at once, and you can't put multiple of each kind. Field guides work to identify. You can do it that way. So here's another thing you can do, is you can assign each student or team of students a local bird to become an expert on. They could do a simple poster with, these are actual student work, with a drawing of the bird and some facts about the bird that they get from a field guide. And then that student is an expert on that bird. And if, when you go outside, if you happen to hopefully see that bird, they'll know. They'll be able to tell the group, oh, it's an indigo bunting, or oh, it's a Carolina chickadee. And so here, this one did a really good job. That's the palm warbler on the left, and this is the student's work on the right. And they captured it pretty well. And I'm sure if they saw it on the day of the count, they would be able to recognize their bird. So here's one school's version of using the focus birds. and how they set that up. And they did smaller little posters than I did. If you want to know what the most common birds are in your area and you have Merlin, this is how you can generate a list. And I won't print it for you, obviously, but you can screenshot it. So you open up the Merlin app, you click, there's a thing that says Explore Birds. There's a slider, hit it to set your local area and what season you're in. And then it's going to generate a real long list of all the common birds of your area for that season, which you see on the next slide. So in Central Florida, these are some of the common winter birds. And to the right, what's really nice, it gives you a bar chart. So as you can see, this palm warbler, by May, they're gone. They're gone for the whole summer. But other birds like the red-winged blackbird and the osprey, they're here all year. Prior to your count, decide how you're going to submit your data. Again, you can use Merlin, but it'll only take one bird at a time. Or you can use eBird, which will be submitted into the scientific database. So again, to repeat, if you're going to use Merlin to do your count, you have to have it open on your device. And you go through the questions, and then you say, oh yes, this is my bird. Oh, you'd be lucky to see a painted bunting, but hey, it's possible. We have them in Central Florida. And when you click, this is my bird, it gives you an option to save with Merlin or to save with eBird. If you hit save with Merlin, it'll keep a record of everything you saw for that day. To use eBird, you're going to download the free app. And what's nice about eBird, it tracks the date, the time, the location, and your distance. And you can submit it from your device. And you can use the website, but you need to track your own distance, time, and location. And so that's a little bit trickier. You can count any bird that's wild that you can identify by sight or sound. If you see a bird and you can't figure out what it is, you don't need to record it. Because a lot of times you'll see birds that are far away and they're backlit and you can't identify it. So don't worry about it. So some birding etiquette to tell your students ahead of time. So if you're watching a bird and its behavior changes, then you're too close. You don't want to go any closer. Like if it was eating something, it stops. You, of course, tell your students to stay in a designated area. Don't go off trails or private property. If you happen to have a nest at your school of any type of bird, don't get too close. Hopefully you have binoculars and they can use binoculars and see it. If not, they can just enjoy it at a safe distance. You should not be using bird calls because it can stress birds out. And tell your students if you're out in a group and one group finds a bird, the others should not run to see it because obviously the bird's going to fly away. After you submit your data, you can watch the live map. So this is really fun. You should check this out before doing the Great Backyard Bird Count. But if you go to the Great Backyard Bird Count website, you'll see it. This won't start until Friday, but it'll have a live submission map. You can have that up on your screen, and it will have little dots of light when a list has been submitted. So if you wait and submit it in the classroom while the kids are watching the screen, they can see their checklist being accepted, which is very exciting. They can also see how many have been submitted. You know, what I do is I show the students before we go out and see how many checklists have been submitted, and then we write that down and then come back and see how many people have been participating. So I'm going to go over how to use eBird. There's also, if you go to the eBird website, also the Great Backyard website, they have helpful tutorials. On eBird, they actually have a free 1-hour class you can take. It goes through all of it. So eBird is a free app. And when you click on, you hit start a checklist, Sometimes you have to click submit. So if there's no start checklist, you can just click submit and then it'll start one for you. And then it's going to come up with locations and you can find the closest one to you. And you can put, the address from your school will pop up. And there's a place I can show you where you can put, restricted access as a school. And don't worry, people are not going to go to your school looking for birds. That's not going to happen. So as you're reporting the birds, you'll see this list of names come up. You just click to the side and it'll add one. You can click on it and you can type in numbers too. So if you saw 200 crows, you don't have to click it 200 times. You can just type in 200. If you've downloaded Merlin, you're going to notice the Merlin icon next to the name of the bird. And so if you're not sure that's what you're seeing, you can click on Merlin and you can compare it right there. You can also correct the number. If you accidentally hit 20 instead of 2, you can go back and fix that. Now, the easiest way to find a bird instead of looking through the whole list is type the first few letters of the name. So like if you see goldfinch, you type in G-O-L-D and American goldfinch will pop up. Now notice, this is not the goldfinch, but there will be some names that have a square and an R, and that means it's rare. It might be rare just simply because it shouldn't be here at this time of year. So like a swallowtail kite, they're common in a month, but right now they're not. They shouldn't be here yet, so it'll have a rare. And if that happens and you really did see it, so to the left are snow geese. They're rare for our area, but if we actually saw snow goose, we can click on it, but then you're going to need to type in some information to say, yeah, we really did see it, and this is our proof. So the next slide will show that. So this is a bird called the yellow-breasted chat, which I did see. I did get not a great photo, but it's identifiable. And so I put in details about the bird that I saw. If you're not sure if you really saw something, don't worry, you don't have to record it. But if you're really, really sure and you see that snow goose on the lawn of your school, absolutely, you can take a picture with your cell phone of it. So when you finish your bird count, you click you click stop, and then it's going to have a review, and you can look and make sure you accidentally didn't click something like penguin. Probably wouldn't happen, but you can take off any mistakes that you just accidentally clicked. You can change the numbers if you forgot to add something or you added too many. And if you forgot to put the location, it'll flash this little warning and you can go back and put your location in. And once your list is ready, submit. But I recommend you do that inside your classroom with the screen up, with the website up, with the live submission map, and your students can see it actually go in. It's one of the most powerful things of the whole day. All right, that's explaining that. Just wait till you go in. It's this www.birdcount.org. I would look at it now. The website's built. It's just the live map won't be showing currently. It'll show on Friday. If you plan to do multiple counts throughout the day, you have different classes, you need to do separate lists for each class. Don't keep it running all day, okay? Because it's not very accurate that way. All right, if anyone has questions, they can put it in the chat. And actually, I'll unmute you. We'll go to the next slide, and you can see my contact information. Well, our next webinar is March 4th, and we're going to do one on exploring natural cycles using birds. And then if we can go to the next one, if you would like to receive a certificate of participation, email me at education@orangeaudubonfl.org, and we'll leave that slide up. And I'm going to stop the recording. All right.